And we are live. I think we're streaming. I'm still not sure about that. I have no idea. I need to get a third computer so I can check all of our streams, or hire a producer or something like that so they can handle it, and then I can just talk. I talk good. Anyway, hey, welcome to VM Live. I am one of your hosts, Jack Rollins, and with me, as always, man, myth, legend, founder of VM, world traveler, nice guy, and half-decent poker player, Mr. Jeffrey Hoffman.
Oh, no. I would take on all that except for the poker player.
Oh, man, you weren't bad.
I just click buttons, throw cards down.
You weren't bad. When we did it in person, I think you really started to kind of pick up on the minutia of it.
It was a good vibe once we got in person. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun.
We'll need to do that again soon.
It was fun.
VM Live poker tournament.
Yeah, we do.
We'll raise money for, Visible Man.
Poker
probably.
Tournament, but
yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
And
I will be folding very quickly.
You know what, though? Honestly, that's how you get into, with a lot of, the smaller tournaments. So not like a real poker tournament. But if you just sit there and fold most of the time, you're good to go. If you just fold, or call, or not call.
I got to learn to do that.
Yeah, fold?
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, because I just kept.
I
just kept going and going. What are you doing?
Fold them. Know when to walk away.
Know when to run.
So stubbornness doesn't pay off.
No. In fact, I used to back on Party Poker and Poker Stars, all those different poker tournament websites when they were big. You used to be able to jump into these sit and go tournaments. I think Full Tilt might still be around. But you'd be able to jump into the sit and go tournaments. So they're just random tournaments. And if you set it to either check or fold, and then you could walk away and then do the minimum bet for when it was yours. And you could walk away and you come back an hour later and you'd be in the final table just because, know, yeah. And the way the tournaments would start out is a bunch of people would go all in immediately. So you'd lose half the people in the first hand. So yeah, I made it to third place one time just doing that. I never touched the cards.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. We also have admin Bob here. What's going on, dude?
Not a whole lot. It's been a long couple of months. February, March. Yeah, it's been a long couple of months. I'm ready for a vacation.
Yeah, I feel you. So today I was originally going to open up the show with a discussion on Deshaun Watson, the Browns' new quarterback, and all of the civil lawsuits and everything going on against him. And I think there's going to be space for that on a future episode. But something was brought to my attention recently, and I think that needs to be addressed first. I hope you guys are okay, me kind of getting on my soapbox for a minute.
Yeah, I'm curious.
No problem. Go ahead.
Well, the title of today's episode was originally going to be "Is there room in the body positivity movement for men?" And it still might be. We haven't decided that yet. But we were cautioned away from discussing the topic because it may send the wrong message. A couple of days ago, I was around a few kids who were having fun and making little jabs at each other, and it was all, harmless. And then, as it usually happens, one of them crossed a line and made a comment about one of the other boys' eating habits. And the boy, he didn't really look like his siblings. They're all super skinny and blonde, and he's got a little bit thicker frame and darker features. He's not fat, and that shouldn't be.
Just for context, can you give an age range? Is this a young, very young person? Or
yeah, 10 to 14, kind of, starting to get into the teenage years, but not quite, full, puberty. But anyway, he's got thicker frame, darker features. He's not fat, he's just, more built. And he's one of those guys who's going to have a broad chest and, big biceps in a couple of years when he gets that testosterone hit, but it hasn't happened yet. But anyway, the comment directed towards him hit him pretty hard because he deals with these body image issues because he sees how differently he looks when he like compares himself to his siblings. And after the dust settled, I spoke with him a little bit, and he opened up about these issues. I want to be clear, the point of this episode was never going to be that like men have body issues too. We weren't going to shout out, hey, look at us over here. You know, what we were going to do, and hopefully still will do, was discuss our insecurities regarding how we look. VM Live is supposed to be a show where we have open and honest conversations about the things that affect us. We have strived to do that since day one. This isn't a place for like higher level philosophical discussions. That's what, Jeff, you do with the live talks. This is a place where we're attempting to do something that most of us as men are not good at, which is open up. It would be one thing if we were to discuss something like race issues, especially now as we only have white people in the room. I can see people getting angry if we bring some of that stuff up, especially like the concept of reverse racism or something like that. But this is different. I wake up every morning, I look in the mirror, and I fucking hate what I see every single day. I've battled weight and image issues my entire life. Telling us not to discuss these things because doing so may send the wrong message completely invalidates our experiences. What am I supposed to say to that little boy? You aren't allowed to have any issues, or if you do, you aren't allowed to talk about them? Or is he allowed to have them because he's a kid, but then he has to get rid of them when he grows up? And it's not just me and him. We were discussing these issues on the server today, and Jeff, you may bring up some of the comments that people made later. The fact is...
Yeah, I got some, yeah.
Yeah, the fact is, these aren't fabricated things or a response to anyone or any situation. These are issues that men deal with. I hear a lot of discussion about safety and tolerance, which is good. However, things are no longer safe when people aren't allowed to speak about the issues that affect them. Safety and tolerance become the opposite, and the preachers from the pulpit become the very thing they hate. We invite you to join in on the conversation if you disagree. We also invite you to listen instead of tearing us down, which is what you're doing. If you do, you may learn something, and hell, we may learn something too. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm pissed. I feel invalidated. I feel like, you know, we've been doing this for a while. I thought there'd be some trust. I thought that people would see the kind of conversations that we tend to have on this show. Did I, you know, because I pick the titles usually and that kind of stuff. And, you know, that's a marketing thing. You know, the idea is that like you'd see that and you'd be like, whoa, no, you know, and then you'd listen, hopefully, to hear us all kind of saying, you know, men have it bad too, you know, and then you wouldn't hear that. You would hear us having open and honest discussions. And so it's a marketing tactic. And for the very people that are, you know, kind of involved, for them to fall for that thing and it felt like completely disregard what we've been doing and what we're trying to do. It pissed me off, and it definitely made my experience feel invalidating. You know, this isn't about women. This isn't about anyone else. We're not comparing. We're not contrasting. We're not doing any of that. We're going to come on and have hopefully an open and honest discussion about what we see in the mirror and what we don't like, because there are people like that little boy, you know, and like I said, what do we say? What do we say to him?
Yeah, I think it was well said.
No,
Well said.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. I think when I look back at a lot of the shows we've done, I think, you know, whatever you want to call it, cancel culture or just people's perspectives, with any number of shows we did, you could take the title and twist it if you wanted to and be like, men have this issue too. But none of our approach isn't like that. That's not our approach. Our approach is just to give a voice to men who are struggling, having issues. We're not trying to take anything away from anybody else who's having those same issues. We're just trying to say, hey, you know, I have this issue. Here's been my experience. So I think for anyone to kind of twist it and invalidate it is doing a disservice to well, to everybody, but doing a disservice to Visible Man as an organization and what we are trying to do and what we stand for, but doing a disservice to everybody, because everybody has a right to stand up and say, here's my issue, here's what I'm dealing with, here's what I'm going through. Everybody has that right, man, woman, you know, whatever race, whatever gender, or binary, you know, whatever, you have that right to stand up and discuss what you're going through, and that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that it comes up on the server every once in a while with people posting something, usually from Reddit, let's be honest, where somebody is complaining about, you know, a cultural problem. And there are cultural problems that are worth discussing, but, you know, and usually at that point it's you know, men have it this way and nobody sees it, you know, and, you know, we kind of call those out a lot of the time, because that doesn't, I don't think anyway, that doesn't help anything to sit there and make these grand statements, you know, sweeping statements about things. I think, you know, what helps is people discussing, you know, their story, their lives, you know, because I'm not speaking for men. I know Jeff and Bob, you aren't speaking for men. We're not speaking for men of any race, you know, any creed. You know, we're speaking for ourselves, you know, and we have different viewpoints. So a couple of times we've disagreed on things, you know, and the radio guy in me loves that, because, you know, nobody wants to listen to people agreeing for an hour. But I think, you know, the human side of me also, like, because that's how you learn, you know, that's how you progress, is to have these kinds of discussions and see different viewpoints from your own. And I feel like being told not to discuss it just invalidates the viewpoint entirely.
Yeah. Well, yesterday's guest shared his story. It was like right in the middle of the interview with Sean Heineman from Scary to Remarry. And he's an African-American guy, and he shared a story that almost could have echoed what you just shared about yourself, Jack, or about the young man that you shared. And or in the server today, people shared things that people said to them when they were a kid. Actually, the question was, what is something that somebody said to you about your body that you'll never forget? They were largely negative. And interestingly, a lot of the comments were received when they were about that age of the person you mentioned, Jack, you know, anywhere from 10 to 15. And in the server, we don't know anything about anybody unless they share it with us. We don't know where they're from, what they look like, anything, how old they are. In some ways, it's kind of difficult to relate to people that way. But in another way, it's great because there's a common level of, we're all men. And that's all that we know. We're all men. That's it. Because we do voice verifications. They're all men. And we have a common experience. And it's, yeah, I don't know. It's something that we all share.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go to break a little bit early. And then when we get back, we are going to discuss our body image issues. We'll see you guys in just a second. And we're back. So now that we got that out of the way, yeah, I think
now we can talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah, right. Now we can just be open and honest.
Just be. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. You know, I'm
shoot the shit, as they say.
Yeah, I'm on a completely different time zone than you guys right now, being down under, and
down under,
and so I didn't get a chance to really look at a lot of the chat today, because it happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, so I got up and I took a shower and got ready, and then I'm here. Which is why I'm not drinking, you know, a glass of wine or something like I usually do, because it's 10:46 in the morning. So, we're not quite to brunch time yet. But it looked like the chat was moving a lot about this discussion. And one thing I noticed is that there seemed to be a lot of guys sharing their pictures, kind of pointing
there
out
was.
their issue and actually like saying this is it. And if any of you guys are listening that were in that discussion, especially doing that, the incredible strength, that it takes, especially to a room full of strangers, to be that open and vulnerable, is commendable. So I just wanted to say that real quick while we're playing this weird jazz flute music behind us. Now on to our issues. I guess I'll just kind of start. I think I've mentioned this before. When I was younger, I was a pretty big athlete. I was big into football, baseball, wrestling, did some boxing later on. And it wasn't a big deal in like baseball or football. It wasn't that big of a deal, your weight or anything like that. But I was first kind of introduced to the concept of you need to lose weight kind of deal when it came to wrestling. And this was back in like the early 90s. And I can't believe that that's so long ago. But I would wear because I'm one of those people. I'm a fast gainer, so I gain fat and I gain muscle very quickly. And to lose those things, it takes a lot for me. So growing up in that, in wrestling especially, it was always, we want you to go a weight class down, no matter what. There's just always, there's a push to go a weight class down, to be like the bigger guy, at the top of the weight class or whatever. But then you get to that weight class and they want you to go down even further, which is incredibly unhealthy for kids to go through. And it wasn't
a teenager.
I wasn't
like
even a teenager
16,
at that point.
like that.
It got worse as you get older. I'm not going to sit here and say like your coach is like, stop eating, like that kind of stuff. But it was on our minds. I was always the smaller guy in the weight class. So I was in a middle weight class towards the top, but I was on the thinner side of that. But they wanted me to move to that next weight class down. And so like I'd be running laps and doing all these things to kind of lose weight, especially before weigh-ins. But I gain weight, like I'd work out and I gain muscle. So like it would kind of have the opposite effect. And we'd wear those like sweatsuits, that literally like help you to sweat out, and we knew they were terrible. At least the world knew they were terrible. But we didn't, at that point so much. And I'm a kid, I don't know, and when we didn't have those, or, when they weren't big enough, because they don't sell those kind of things for preteens and early teens, we'd wear plastic trash bags. And you'd sleep in them. So like you'd wear a trash bag and
Wow,
and you'd sleep in it, which somebody says is actually a really good way to get rid of like a fever. But it was hot. It was terrible. And I know the tricks. We'd chew gum right before weigh-ins because it produces spit, and so you'd see a bunch of people walking around with plastic bottles chewing gum and spitting into the bottles to get rid of whatever they could. And again, we were 12, 13. So it's one thing if you're talking about people in their late teens, early 20s doing these kinds of things, it's still incredibly damaging. But we were much younger, and we didn't know what this meant. All we knew was that we weighed too much. And so I've carried that with me, that unhealthy kind of association with food, and that unhealthy association where no matter how I looked, and maybe I can see if I can find some. If you see some pictures of me back then, I didn't look bad. I wasn't fat. I wasn't, I was in really good shape, and that continued all through high school and early college. I was in great shape. And then, that continued on. and I, would see my body as always being too big, regardless of what it was. And then it lessened a little bit when I got married, and then towards the end of the marriage, when things were going, terribly, I started to, eat and drink a lot more than I should have, and so food kind of then turned into kind of a I'm trying to think of the word. What's the word when you're trying to cover something up, or
Like a coping mechanism?
yeah,
or
coping
something?
mechanism. That's it. It became kind of a coping
yeah.
mechanism, and obviously, there was also the, food is fuel, and when you're 15, like you're, football player and that kind of stuff, like you eat a lot, and then when you're not doing those things, it catches up with you. But I was definitely using both of those things as coping mechanisms, and I wasn't doing the physical activity to balance it out, and you can't outwork out your diet anyway. And so I gained a lot of weight, and I'm, working on losing it. And I've had some pretty good moments. I've had some bad moments, but that kind of confusion has just put me in a place where when like I said earlier, I look in the mirror and, I like legitimately hate what I see. I see rolls, I see, things that, the gut, that turn sideways, and I hate it. And, it's to me, it's not, and I look good today. I look less bad. And, that has obviously affected my confidence. It's affected, a lot of things, what I wear, I'm getting better at it, but for a long time, I hid under baggy clothes and that kind of stuff, which actually makes you look worse. But I see that every day, and I hate it. And I know I'm supposed to be, everybody's beautiful and everybody's, and all that jazz. But at 7:00 in the morning, you're not thinking those thoughts. So that's kind of my big issue, is my weight. There's other things here and there that I'm not really happy with, but so I guess under the definition of like body image issues and that kind of stuff, yeah, I deal with it every day, every morning.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
I've been afraid of struggling with weight. I have people in my family that are overweight, and it's been of like a fear of mine. So I wonder if I've almost compensated for it, because I'm kind of I'm very aware of it every day. I look, and I don't know, average build. I don't know what you'd call me, but the things that I'm self-conscious about, I'm losing my hair. I'm late 40s. It's normal. And I said that to myself when I was younger, that as soon as I start to lose my hair, I'm just going to shave it off. I'm not going to, now that I'm there, I'm like, oh, like this is like I don't like it. It looks good when somebody shaves their head. I think it's when a guy's bald. That's something that I struggle with, I suppose. One of the first in the server today, Nako asked, what's something that somebody said to you that you'll never forget. I was at the zoo when I was a teenager, and somebody that I was with said, "Oh, look at the monkeys. They look like Jeff." That's what they said. And
wow.
It was, and somebody else commented about me being lanky when I was in grade school. And like I was like, my arms were long, disproportionate, but I've never forgotten that. And it was like I think I wish I was more muscular. I always wish I was more muscular. And I go in phases where I'll take creatine and I'll take a protein supplement just to get more calories. But then I'll add a little bit of weight, and I think, oh, okay, that's too much. And then I'll, especially I've noticed, especially if if there's something, if somebody makes a comment, I think I told you like last week, this past weekend, I visited a friend in New Jersey, and but before that, I saw her like maybe a month ago, and she said, "You need to put on more muscle." That's what she said to me. Since that day, I've been to the gym almost every day. Like maybe I miss like once or twice a week, and probably just because it hurts. I'm in my late 40s, and there's like this embarrassment of like not being strong enough or not having a six pack, and I think the ideals that are out there for us, they're practically impossible to attain unless you're paid to be a movie star and can be in the gym 8 hours a day. So I think not being muscular is something that I struggle with. And, I'll put this out there, penis size is something that I don't want to say I struggle with, but it's definitely on my mind. And somebody in the server today asked, well, like, do you guys compare it with somebody else? And I'm like,
all right, let's do it.
No, like, I was like, well, it is visible. And it's not that we do, but I mean, porn, portrays penises as being pretty large. And I still remember something somebody said to me. It was somebody that I was dating, and they were talking about a previous, I still can't believe it. They were talking about a previous sex partner, and they said his dick was massive. And I was like, okay, my blood just ran cold. That was just like, that's just not what I needed to hear. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. That's a big one, man.
I don't know. I think, yeah. So I think those are probably some of the things that come to mind that I struggle with.
Yeah. The penis size thing is and it's weird because it seems socially acceptable to make those kinds of jokes, now in your experience, she wasn't joking, which is almost worse. But that's something that you can't control. Like your height.
What's actually a funny story about that is I matched with somebody on Tinder. This was a while ago. And then I started following her on social media. And we never met for a date, but she posted a video, and there's a song that I don't know. It's like Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Little something. And, and I was like, oh, that's awesome that she posted that, because now I know I don't want to come near you at all. Because if you're going to publicly talk about that like it's a joke, I can't imagine what it'd be like to date you. So it just saved me a lot of time.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But I just lost a ton of respect for that person.
Yeah. A couple of it was probably a month or so ago, I think I put something up on the server, and there was a discussion about that because somebody who a female who was big into the body positivity movement on she's on Instagram, she was posting she's just and it's great, all women are beautiful. She's formerly like big into fitness, and then realized that it was, dangerous for her, to be like mental health wise and that kind of stuff, and happier, a little bit bigger, and it's fine, great, but she's all about the body positivity. And then she put up a couple of posts like joking on penis size, and it was like, so
oh really?
Yeah, like that's cool.
Really?
Like you're gonna do that?
Wow.
That doesn't make that's nice.
I just
Interesting.
I don't know. I just can't imagine posting something about well, I think it gets back to your point earlier, Jack, about I can't imagine posting something like that about a woman's body. People do.
Yeah, that's
and
the thing.
so
Yeah.
it's like the whole not all men, is that like people do that. People do comment, I just personally can't imagine doing that because I wouldn't want it done to myself.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
but
like I mean, like you said, I mean, I've heard within the circle of guy friends that we have over the years, I have heard guys talk about, oh, her tits were big, her tits were small. But yeah, when it comes to social media, I would never ever put anything out there publicly at all whatsoever. And I don't think, honestly, for myself, I don't think, even if I was dating someone and in some way I felt that her chest was smaller, I wouldn't, I don't think I would really even care, because it's more about what's on the inside of the person, honestly. How nice is her personality? Does she get along with me? Do we, click on certain levels? So even if I felt in some way, oh, her chest is smaller than this other person's I dated, I'm not going to put that out there, because that's not a basis for the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought he was totally gonna.
It's interesting because
Go ahead.
I've heard the same thing. Women have said the same thing pretty much across the board. The same thing about penis size, that anytime that even me bringing this up, that person's comment was not directed at me. It was not like, oh yeah, well, look at, it was not a comparison. It made me, I felt insecure. In fact, it just amplified my insecurities. It triggered it. But the comment it was never made like you're less of a man because of this other person. It was a statement of fact. I mean, it probably was factual, but that was it. It wasn't anything. It didn't say anything about me as a person. And it says more. Any woman has said to me the same thing that you said, Bob, about chest size. That it's about the person that they're. It's about the whole person, not that specific feature. Even if that specific feature makes that person feel insecure.
Well, I mean, it's it says more about your insecurity, but that's the point. That's what we're trying to say, is that there are insecurities, and what you do with that information is entirely up to you. But I think all men, unless you have a giant baseball bat or something like that hanging between your legs, I think all men, are concerned about that, because of what we've seen, what we've been exposed to, that kind of stuff. It's just, it is out there, and that's always going to be, I think that's always going to be kind of a sore spot for a lot of men, because you can't control it. And people, lie about that stuff and exaggerate, and just kind of like with fish, you know what I mean? And so I think there's a mystique around it a little bit, whether we've been taught or whether we've been told. I mean, I don't think anybody ever told me this specifically, but men, for better or frankly, honestly, for worse, associate their masculinity and their sexual prowess and all those kind of things around, it's penis centric, and there's a lot of arguments to be made about how we should get away from that, and how that is, toxic, or, not the best way to please your partner, and all those kind of things. But we're here now. This is where it is. This is what we were raised with. This is what we know, so it is, it's sensitive, man. It's a sensitive subject.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Jack, I mean, regardless of what happens outside of your brain, if you look in the mirror and you feel a certain way, regardless of your gender, your sex, your skin color, anything, you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel insecure about X. That's it. Period. You want to look like one of the Hemsworth brothers. You want to have a six pack. You want to have, biceps that are bulging and you can't get them. That's just fact. That's just how you feel. And it's hard. It's hard to walk around with that.
Yeah. Especially when
I was going to say, looking at what we've been talking about and things you guys have both said, for me, more of it has been what I've seen presented by media and society versus anything I personally experienced. I mean, I've always been, I would say average. So I didn't really get subject to anything in school other than at some point for a couple of years, the guys kept calling me flathead. I was like, I don't know. Is my head flat? I don't. But there was no, other than that, there was no, like, I wasn't made to feel bad about my body. It was more partly generated by me as I was watching other kids be athletic and doing things. And I was like, oh, I want to be like that. I want to be more athletic, and then of course you see sports on TV, and you see, whatever, the bodybuilders, or you see the football players, the baseball players, and you're like, yeah, I want to be like that. I want to be more athletic. So of course you start going to the gym and working out and doing things. And then you start learning about, oh, there's supplements I can take that will help me, help my muscle growth and stuff like that. So it's been a fine line over the years with me between just wanting to be healthy, wanting to be fit for just that reason, wanting to be healthy, wanting to be fit, versus seeing something, whether that's, The Rock on social media or a football player on social media. And as I think you kind of said it earlier, Jeff, like, oh, wow, yeah, I want to be like that. But, gee, I don't have a job that pays me enough where I can go to the gym every day. I'm not an actor. I'm not an athlete. I'm not paid to be in the gym every day. So therefore, I have to just work with what I have. So there's kind of an acceptance level of, all right, I have to work with what I have, with my body and with what I can afford to do. That's kind of how I got into running. Like, oh, I can afford to run. I'll have to just buy a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and sneakers, and boom, I can go out and run.
Yeah, I think we can kind of talk about that if you guys would like to a little bit after the break. That Hollywood portrayal, because we all kind of grew up in the, you had Bruce Willis, who was like the everyday, but then everybody else was roided out, and that's what we kind of grew up watching. So, we will, we'll cut to break real quick, and we'll talk about it here in just a couple minutes. And we're back. As always, we have a couple of quick announcements. VM holds weekly voice chat hangouts on Mondays at 7 p.m. It's a great way for men to connect on something other than via text. The gamer section holds weekly hangouts on Fridays at 9 p.m. Come hang out, play video games, stream, and or talk about video games with your fellow VM gamers. We have some live talks coming up in the next couple of weeks. More information about them will be announced soon. And VM Live, in case you haven't noticed, has been changed to Thursdays at 8 p.m. So that's Thursdays at 8 p.m. now. Join the server and take part in the show. And as a reminder, all times are Eastern, and all events take place on the Visible Man Discord server. The link for that will be in the show notes. If you are watching this on Facebook or YouTube, remember to give us that thumbs up and subscribe. And you can also check us out if you appreciate the work we're doing. Check us out at patreon.com/visibleman. I think patreons.com. I should have written that down. It's .com, right?
I think so. Yep.
Okay. I'll fix it. It'll be.
And Eastern time
right
is the only time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Eastern time and then not go time. But the nice thing is we put all of our events up on the VM Discord server. They have Discord's got a new thing where you can put the events in, and it converts all the events into your local time, which is really nice. And I think you can add them to your calendar and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's all for the announcements. Jeff, I had mentioned this early on in the episode about how there were a lot of kind of discussions about, body image and that kind of stuff today. And you pulled some comments from the server, right?
Yeah. I'm just going to read off some of the things that people said when they were asked the question, what's something somebody said about your body that you'll never forget? One of my younger brothers is rail thin, and my parents used to call him Scarecrow and tell him to not go outside if it's too windy. My mother usually says that I'm ugly. She sometimes says that she feels disgusted when she looks at me. I've always been overweight, even as a kid. And my mom's coworker mentioned that I was like a tree. And I'll never forget, my mom said, you better learn when people are talking about you and defend yourself. I've been told I'm shaped like SpongeBob SquarePants. Somebody said that to him. My dad said that fat kids make fat adults. That one's like hard to read. Somebody said you're skinny. For me, it was less something that somebody said than labels that stuck with me. Remember my mom taking me to a shop in the Husky section when I was a kid, feeling bad about myself. And I remember thinking of myself as chubby for all of my life, even now. So yeah, those are just some of the comments that people made. That what's interesting is that like a lot of them were when they were kids. You know, that like that they stick with you.
Kids, yeah. I mean I remember the Husky section. Yeah, I remember that, and that's
Sears and Roebuck.
Yeah, it's a dangerous section, and I don't think they do that as much anymore. I think they just go by sizes. My partner and actually she'd come up with an idea about a like a female like clothes shop or whatever you call them, where they don't use sizes, they use like nicknames, that are positive, so that way it's not. I can't tell you. I don't know what a big size is for a woman, but
it's like it's like when you go to Starbucks and get a coffee, you can't get a small. You can get a tall.
Yeah.
A grande.
Yeah, grande or a venti. That way you can be wrong in 3 languages.
Yeah.
Well, for a while there was a store. It might still be out there. Big and Tall.
Mm-hmm.
It was a men's store.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. There's that, and then there's.
I walked in there one time and I'm like, "There's nothing here for me."
Yeah, there's another one that's by us, and then out here there's I think it's called like Johnny Biggs or something like that, and they have stuff, and a lot of it is it's good quality clothes. I was looking at it, and it's not so much meant for. I mean, they have the big sizes, but it's also meant for people who just happen to have like broad shoulders and stuff like that, which I also have, because now. You go to, Kohl's or something like that, and you want to get a suit jacket. Everything is like super slim fit, and so you have to go like 8 sizes too big just to be able to get your forearms into the jacket, and so it's not even like
everything
my
is very slim fit now.
Yeah, it's not even my gut. That's the problem. It's like I can't get my hand through. I'm like,
it's like the lowest common denominator of the sizing. It's like, well, my thighs are big, but my wrists are small, so therefore we're gonna get a big jacket.
Yeah. I bought a suit. There's a wedding out here that I'll be going to, and so I got a suit because I didn't know, what was available out here, and I'm not about to fly in without it. And I got this suit. It was probably after general stuff, and then obviously the purchase of the suit was like $800. And it was a last minute kind of thing. So it was more than I wanted to spend. And had I had more time, I could have, shopped a little better, but it was, more of an emergency. And while it fits better, it drives me nuts because, like they have these, a big thing now is they make like right here, they make this really low. So that way a lot of arms can fit in, and so like it just feels,
yeah.
And you can't really tailor that, like it's,
you can't raise,
you can't
raise your arms
raise the armpits and stuff like that. So that's why a lot of suits fit funky. And I think that's an issue too, in a way, when it comes to that, is that if you're not, the shape of whatever, model they used or whatever for whatever piece of clothing, that whether it's ideal, whatever it is, it's difficult to feel good in clothes because not everybody can afford to have, bespoke clothes. And frankly, you shouldn't have to go to a tailor to get your jeans tailored, but they're all based around, specific body size now. And if you don't fit that, and you go to the store to try on some of the stuff, you feel pretty crap, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause you'll be sitting there saying, "Well, I wear a 38 jean," you know, and
Mm-hmm.
how come this one doesn't go around, you know, or you can get it around
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
waist, but you can't get your legs into it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at what you were reading off the server, Jeff, I just wanted to comment on a couple of things that people had said, because I mean, I know you're a parent. I'm a parent.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine, you know, you have daughters. I have a daughter. I'm very sensitive to how she feels about her body.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Mhm.
even imagine saying anything as a parent to my kid like what some of those people said. I can't even imagine doing that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you know, there's a fine line with honesty, but it's like, you don't think like, you're fat, you know. I mean, and my daughter has come to me and she said, "I feel fat." I'm like, dude, you do cheerleading and you do gymnastics and you do martial arts. You have tons of muscle on you. You're not
Mm-hmm.
fat.
Mhm.
So I mean, as a parent, I can't even imagine, like, kind of like quote unquote body shaming your own kid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Do
to
we?
me, that's just unthinkable.
So, what I was thinking is that, you know, I wouldn't say something like that to my daughters, and you wouldn't say something like that either, Bob. Other people would, you
Yeah,
know,
and they do.
to our kids. Yeah, yeah, like people on the street, or like they'll, you know, sexualize them, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it made me think, where do we get it from if it's not our parents? Like, but genuinely, as peers, do we men? How do we talk about each other's bodies? How do we do that?
I mean, I as a
Like, do we compliment each other, or do we give each other a hard time?
I don't think either. At least like us, like me personally, I probably don't compliment enough. Well, no, I know I don't. But I don't
Yeah.
talk about it at all. You know, like, you know, I don't. I tend
Yeah,
not to.
I asked the question not knowing the answer myself.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think I'm about the same. I don't think.
Yeah, I want to say, as a guy, I feel like I tend, and this is probably the stereotype, I feel like I tend to compliment women more
Mhm.
on what they're wearing than I do another guy, even if he's wearing something that looks really nice.
Mhm.
I think, again, it may be a society thing, media thing.
Mhm.
I start to feel awkward. Like if I saw you out in public, Jeff, and you looked really good, I would initially feel awkward to be like, "Hey, you look really nice."
Yeah.
But why? Why shouldn't I compliment you on how you're dressed and how you look?
Yeah, I think I'm the same.
Yeah.
I think if I know somebody well and I feel close to them, then I would compliment them.
Mhm.
But I generally I wouldn't. But it is interesting because I have complimented women on how they look,
Yeah.
but not men.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess follow-up question. What do women say about us? To our faces, about our looks?
I mean, I've gotten, you know, my partner says, you know, if I look really nice, you know, she'll tell me, which is nice, you know. It affects me, I think, you know, a lot more than when I tell her that she looks nice. Because I don't want to say it's more rare, you know, but like I don't think guys in general are used to
I think it
hearing
is.
compliments, you know. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't give compliments as much as I should to guys. Is it's not so much my awkwardness of saying it, it's my fear of whatever their reaction could be, you know. And that's dumb. Like if you think about it, because what are they gonna do? They're not gonna sit there and be like, "How dare you compliment my hair," and then hit me? You know what I mean? Like I know what it's like to get a compliment.
Well, some people might take it the wrong. Some
Maybe.
people might think you're hitting on them, and they might not like it. But
Yeah.
if it's delivered with some grace, then it'd be like, "Oh, thanks, man."
Yeah.
You know?
So maybe we should do that. Maybe we
I want
should
to say I
make that a piece
generally
of homework.
don't get
I
generally
compliment
don't
another
get
guy. Yeah.
feedback from women unless I specifically ask for it.
Mhm.
Like I have a really good friend, and I've talked to her before, and I've been like, oh, I'm thinking of, doing this with my hair. And so then in that discussion, she'd be like, well, you really look better with short hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you think so? I said, because I look in the mirror and I think I look better with long hair. She's like, no, you look better with short hair. And then as my daughter's gotten older, I have that same discussion with her. I'm like, oh, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, I think you look better with shorter hair. But just on a day-to-day, day in, day out basis, I only like if I've really dressed up like in a suit or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, wow, you look really nice. But other than that, no.
Yeah.
Is that even really a compliment, though? When not you look nice in a suit, but like, oh, you look better this way. Is that even really a compliment, or is that just advice? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not
That's
trying
just
to
some
say that what they're
direction.
saying is, yeah, but that to me sounds more like you need to do this, which me personally, I have
Yeah.
issues with. But
Yeah, I could see that.
yeah, so none of us get compliment. Maybe we're just ugly. There's always that, like I'm waiting for like 10
It's
guys on
rare.
the server to be like, I get complimented every other day. I don't know what you're.
Yeah. Actually, but back to what you were saying before with people posting pictures, it was so cool. It was so cool. Like one person posted a picture when they were slimmer and they're like, I want to get back to this point. But then they posted another picture where they currently are.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked so happy. Like the smile on his face was just, it was in his eyes. He looked beautifully happy, And I'm like, that's a guy I want to hang out with, Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can I don't know, the way that you carry yourself I think has a lot to do with it, but that may be situational or something like that. I don't know, but like when you look at yourself in the mirror, those insecurities still pop up.
Yeah, I just saw here because my partner's got like this one of those makeup kind of mirror, so it's like, oh, that's right on your face. Which is an issue. Maybe you're not noticing your insecure or your flaws. If you don't have a friggin' magnifying glass up to your pores. But I noticed gray hairs starting to come in. I've always had one or two, not always, but like on my beard. But I noticed them peppered throughout my hair, and you can't see them now. And pictures, that kind of stuff. But it was just like, I saw that and I'm like, and I was joking with the kids. I said, I didn't have gray hair before I came here. So whatever y'all did, but,
look at what you did.
Yeah. So that was just another thing that, I just started noticing in the mirror, the gray hairs coming in. One thing I think in a way we've kind of sussed out, we don't compliment each other, as men, obviously enough, but I think there's another side to that coin too, is I don't think as adults anyway, we insult each other or pressure each other to look a certain way. Especially not as much as women tend to, and I'm only going by what I've been told, that there's a lot more of a pressure, I don't care, what you're wearing or what your hair looks like or whatever, I think guys have, I think we're better at not being as, I don't want to say better, but we don't put that pressure on each other. So, maybe that's a good thing a little bit more, that we don't have to, we don't feel that pressure. At least I don't feel pressure to look a certain way around you guys, or to make sure that I'm, my makeup's right and all those kind of things,
Yeah. I feel the
You wear
same.
makeup?
Yeah. I actually, I looked up a statistic that in the last couple of years, the men wearing makeup the makeup industry for men has gone up 70% in the last couple of years.
I think that's really good, but it's
that
also
is more
kind
of
of
a thing.
insulting. If you look at them, because you see them on like TikTok and stuff like that. I'm familiar with some basic makeup techniques from like broadcast training and that kind of stuff. So you learn some of the things to make you less shiny. And I think it's great that guys are starting to, look into that if they want to, But if you look at the ads for that, they're so like blatantly, manly, and like it's almost borderline parody.
Oh, really?
Like SNL, I don't know, Jason Momoa was on SNL, and they were talking about stay-at-home dads, and like they had like vacuum cleaners and refrigerators and clothes washers that were like power
that was a
tools.
great sketch.
Yeah.
It's like gasoline powered clothes washer or something.
And that's kind of what it feels like for the makeup. So it seems kind of funny, but at the end of the day, the argument for makeup just existing in general is pretty dangerous. Anyway, we are about out of time. I think the last thing to focus on is that whether you are male, female, and any gender, any creed, any skin tone, race, whatever, you are beautiful. And that's not up for argument's sake. And I hope everyone listening and viewing and all those kind of things, including myself, can learn to hopefully accept that someday. So that is the end of today's show. Make sure you check us out online at visibleman.org. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. I think that's all. Pinterest. Still working on MySpace. We're going to get that one up and going here pretty soon. LinkedIn, yeah. And if you're watching this via the YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. If you're listening to this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. That helps other people find the show. If you want to join in on the conversation, go ahead and click that invite in the show notes to the Discord server. It's where we have open and honest discussions about men and men's mental health daily. If you like the work we're doing here with VM Live, with Jeff's live talks, and with Visible Man in general, go ahead and jump over to patreon.com/visibleman and show us your support. Is there anything else?
You got it.
Okay, cool. By the way, you both look awesome today. I'm digging it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody, once again,
Visible Man shirt.
Thank you for listening. This is Jack Rollins reminding you that vulnerability is the ultimate demonstration of strength. Cheers.